Emma had always believed in the power of love, not the kind from fairy tales, but the one built slowly, with patience, respect, and presence. When she met Ryan, she felt like the world had finally aligned. He was thoughtful, calm, and full of warmth. With him, everything felt simple, light, natural. Their relationship grew quickly, but with strong roots. Within months, they were living together in a cozy apartment filled with plants, books, and laughter that echoed through the quiet. The kind of life Emma had always hoped to build with someone, but as in every real story, there was a shadow. Ryan's sister, Claire, had never liked her. From the very first meeting, Claire's disapproval was impossible to ignore. In the way, she barely smiled, the sharp remarks hidden in polite tones, the cold looks across family dinners. Emma tried to overlook it, believing that time would soften things. That eventually, Claire would see who she truly was. She was wrong. What Emma didn't yet know was that Claire wasn't just disapproving, she was determined to tear them apart, even if it meant manipulating truths and twisting the narrative. This is not just a story about jealousy. It's about a woman who learned the hard way that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. The first time Emma realized something was off was during a Sunday lunch. It was only her third time visiting Ryan's family since they started dating. Wanting to make a good impression, she had baked a homemade chicken and leek pie, a cherished family recipe passed down from her grandmother. She carried it proudly, hopeful and open-hearted, imagining it would be a small gesture of welcome. Everyone seemed pleased at first. Ryan's mother greeted her with a warm hug. His father made a few light jokes, and the cousins welcomed her with easy laughter. But Claire, Ryan's older sister, barely looked at her. She offered a thin smile, forced and cold, like someone going through the motions. At the table, the tension became harder to ignore. Every time Emma tried to share a story or comment on something, Claire found a way to interrupt. If Emma mentioned something fun from work, Claire changed the subject. When she complimented Ryan, Claire sighed loudly. And when someone praised the pie, Claire said with that same practiced smile, "Chicken pie, super basic, right? But I guess sometimes simple works." Ryan chuckled awkwardly, trying to brush it off. Emma smiled politely, swallowing the sting. Later in the kitchen, as she helped Ryan's mother with the dishes, Claire walked in, grabbed a glass of water, and without looking at either of them, casually dropped a comment. The problem with relationships that move this fast is that people don't really know each other. But hey, to each their own. The words lingered in the air like a thick fog. Emma didn't answer. The silence said enough. Even Ryan's mother seemed uncomfortable, her eyes fixed on the dishes she was rinsing. On the way home, Ryan reached for her hand in the car. He apologized gently for Claire's behavior, calling her distant, moody, and hard to please. He insisted she was like that with everyone and told Emma not to take it personally. Emma wanted to believe him. She really did. But deep down, something didn't feel right. It wasn't just Claire's coldness. It was the way she looked at Emma as if she didn't belong, as if she had already decided Emma wasn't good enough. And as time would reveal, Claire wasn't just being rude, she was preparing for something much worse. As the months passed, Emma and Ryan's relationship only grew stronger. They shared routines, laughed over small things, supported each other during the hard days, and dreamed of a bigger home where they could build something lasting. Their bond was real, quiet, and steady. The kind of love that doesn't need to be announced to be felt. Perhaps it was exactly that calm happiness that bothered Claire the most. What began as cold glances and indirect remarks soon evolved into something more deliberate. Claire started calling Ryan more frequently, often late in the evening, claiming she just needed to talk. She'd vent about her life, her recent breakup, her work issues. Ryan, always kind and loyal, didn't question it. He believed she was just going through a hard time. At first, Emma also tried to be understanding. But soon, she began to sense something calculated beneath the surface. One evening as they cooked dinner together, Ryan laughed at a message he had just received. He turned his phone to show her. "Claire says she wants to introduce me to a friend of hers. Says she's totally my type." Emma froze, still holding the wooden spoon above the pan. She asked what Claire meant, trying to sound casual. Ryan just shrugged and said Claire was probably joking or had forgotten again that he was in a relationship. He put the phone away and kissed Emma's forehead as if nothing had happened. But something in her chest had shifted. Days later, Claire showed up unannounced at Ryan's office with coffee. "Like old times," she had said. Emma only found out that evening when Ryan mentioned it offhandedly. She asked if Claire had said anything about her, and Ryan told her that he had mentioned Emma, how hard she was working, how happy they were, how they had started planning a trip. But that uneasy feeling remained. The following weekend, there was a barbecue at Ryan's parents' house. Emma hesitated, but Ryan encouraged her to come, saying things would settle down. They arrived hand in hand, trying to keep things light. The day was sunny, the garden full of people chatting and laughing. Everything seemed fine, until Emma returned from the kitchen and saw Claire standing near the pool, introducing Ryan to a tall, stylish blonde woman Emma had never seen before. Claire was smiling widely and said loud enough for several people to hear, "This is my brother Ryan. He's amazing. Can you believe he's single?" The woman laughed and looked Ryan up and down with interest. Emma stopped in her tracks. Ryan, clearly uncomfortable, quickly responded, "Actually, I'm not single. I've been with Emma for over a year." Claire laughed, feigning embarrassment. "Oh, right. I totally forgot. My bad." But the smirk on her face betrayed her words. That night in the car, Emma sat in silence for a long time. Eventually, she asked if Ryan still believed Claire didn't mean harm. He didn't answer right away. Then, with a tired sigh, he admitted that maybe he had been wrong. Maybe Emma had seen something he hadn't wanted to see, and maybe this was only the beginning. After the incident at the barbecue, something shifted between Emma and Ryan. Not the love that was still there, but the lightness. Their trust, once solid, now carried the weight of silence, of small questions left unspoken. Emma no longer felt at ease, even in the home they had built together. Claire's presence loomed even in her absence. The sister had planted doubt, not just between them, but inside Emma too. Doubt that no longer whispered. It echoed. Ryan, visibly torn, avoided the subject. He continued to act normal, but Emma noticed the way his shoulders tensed when his phone lit up with Claire's name. He had always defended her, saying she just needed support. But now, his defenses seemed more like excuses. One quiet evening, as they sat watching a movie, Ryan received a call. He stood up and walked into the bedroom. Emma heard the low hum of his voice through the wall, and though she couldn't make out the words, the tone was enough. Something was wrong. When he returned, his face was clouded. He told Emma that Claire was upset again, that she felt alone and misunderstood by the whole family, that she needed to talk, just the two of them. Emma didn't answer at first, but her silence said more than words. She had seen this before. Ryan tried to justify it. He said it was just a conversation, that Claire was fragile, that Emma had nothing to worry about, but Emma knew it wasn't about trust in him. It was about the space being created for manipulation, about how Claire continued to insert herself between them, and how Ryan kept letting her. The next day, Emma left the apartment for a walk while Claire visited. She didn't want a confrontation. She didn't want a scene. She just needed air. Hours passed as she wandered without direction, trying to clear the fog from her thoughts. When she returned, Ryan was sitting alone on the couch, staring at the floor. He looked up, hesitant. He said Claire had told him something disturbing, that she had seen Emma having coffee with an ex-boyfriend a few days earlier. Emma blinked, stunned. She hadn't seen anyone. She hadn't gone anywhere. The accusation was completely false, but what hurt wasn't the lie. It was the hesitation in Ryan's eyes. He didn't accuse her, but he didn't immediately defend her either. That tiny pause, that flicker of doubt, it was enough to shake everything, and for the first time, Emma felt something crack. Not in their relationship, but inside herself. She realized she could no longer explain who she was to someone who didn't instinctively. No. In the days that followed, Emma moved through the apartment like a guest in a place that no longer felt like home. The silence between her and Ryan was no longer gentle. It was sharp, filled with the weight of things unsaid. The warmth that once lived in their shared routines had faded. The laughter had grown quieter. Even the smallest moments felt like they belonged to someone else now. Emma had always believed in fighting for love. But this no longer felt like a fight for them. It felt like a fight for space, for clarity, for peace. And she was tired. One quiet afternoon, she stood by the living room window, watching the world pass below. People rushing, talking, living, as if her world hadn't shifted. She realized something simple and undeniable. Staying was costing her too much. Not just the relationship, her self-worth, her peace, her voice. Without anger, without drama, she made the decision to leave. She began to pack slowly, folding clothes with care, separating what was hers from what she would no longer carry. The act itself felt symbolic, a gentle reclaiming of who she was before everything had been clouded by someone else's shadow. There were no tears, only a quiet, grounded sorrow. A kind that doesn't scream, but settles deep in the chest. When Ryan saw the suitcase, his face fell. He tried to speak, to explain, to apologize, but Emma had heard enough, seen enough, felt enough. She didn't need a dramatic goodbye. She needed a clean one. She left with grace, and for the first time in a long while, she felt free. The move happened quietly, almost like a breath being released after holding it for too long. Emma didn't make announcements or grand farewells. She simply chose herself and let the rest go. She moved to a new city, just far enough to start over without disappearing. The apartment she found was small but full of light, with high ceilings, soft shadows, and windows that welcomed the morning sun. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like hers, a blank page. In those first days, everything felt foreign. She spent her mornings walking through unfamiliar streets, learning the rhythm of a place that didn't know her story. In the evenings, she arranged her books, her plants, the pieces of a life she was carefully rebuilding, not from scratch, but from truth. Emma updated her resume, sent emails, attended interviews with steady hands, even when her heart still carried scars. She no longer needed to impress anyone. She was ready for a new chapter, one where she no longer had to apologize for shining. Then came the offer. It came from a company she had admired for years, known for its innovation, leadership, and especially its respect for individuality. The position was better than anything she had imagined, challenging, meaningful, and surrounded by people who valued collaboration over competition. She accepted without hesitation. Soon, the days became fuller. Her work excited her. The quiet returned, not the painful kind, but the peaceful one. Her confidence returned too, slowly, like spring after a long winter. Emma no longer checked her phone for messages that never came. She no longer replayed old conversations or wondered what might have been. The past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined her. She had survived it, and more than that, she had grown. This wasn't a comeback. It was a rebirth. The news reached Claire in fragments. A comment from their mother during a family lunch. A post on LinkedIn shared by a mutual acquaintance. A brief mention from a former co-worker who had no idea the tension that lingered behind Emma's name. Little by little, the story unfolded. Emma had moved, found a prestigious job, and was thriving. Claire didn't say much when she heard. She smiled politely, nodded. But inside, something tightened. She told herself it didn't matter. That Emma was out of the picture, that Ryan had moved on, that none of it affected her life. But deep down, she knew better. It wasn't just that Emma had left, it was that she had risen. Claire had tried so hard to make her feel small. She had planted seeds of doubt, spun quiet lies, and watched as things fell apart. But instead of crumbling, Emma had chosen to grow, away from them, far from her reach. And now, even from a distance, Emma's strength echoed louder than any of Claire's manipulations. Ryan spoke less about his past now, but when he did mention Emma, there was a softness in his voice, a kind of peace that hurt more than anger ever could. He never blamed Claire out loud, but his silence around her had changed. Claire felt it, knew it. The damage she caused didn't leave her triumphant. It left her alone. In the evenings, Claire often found herself scrolling through her phone, pausing too long on Emma's photos. The smile, the eyes, the way she now carried herself, she would never admit it. But jealousy doesn't need to be spoken to be felt. It stays like a shadow, especially when the person you tried to erase shines even brighter away from you. Emma's life had finally settled into something beautiful. Her days were full, her heart light. She had created a world where peace wasn't something to chase, it lived with her. Her mornings began with coffee by the window, and her nights ended with gratitude. She no longer carried the weight of what happened. It had shaped her, yes, but it didn't define her. And then, one afternoon, she saw him, Ryan, standing at the entrance of her office building, uncertain but sincere. His eyes told the story before he spoke. He hadn't come to reclaim anything. He wasn't there for drama or closure. He just wanted to see her, to tell her what he should have said long ago. He told her that he had made a mistake, that he saw everything clearly now, that letting her walk away had been the hardest consequence of his silence, and that no matter what, he admired her for her strength, her dignity, her ability to rise above everything. Emma listened, calm and centered. There was no anger in her, only clarity. She smiled gently. She had healed. She didn't need to return to the past to know her worth. And for the first time, Ryan truly saw her, not as someone to protect, but as someone to stand beside. There were no promises, just mutual respect, a quiet acknowledgement of what was, and of everything she had become. If you've ever been doubted, dismissed, or dimmed by someone who couldn't see your light, this story is for you. Maybe you stayed silent. Maybe you walked away. Maybe you're still finding the strength to begin again. But like Emma, you can rise, you can build something new. You can grow far beyond what tried to hold you back. You can become someone even stronger, not because of what they did to you, but because of what you chose to do for yourself. And if this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and follow the channel for more stories that inspire. Because your voice matters, and your story isn't over yet.